He was one of the most respected actors of his generation. A two-time Academy Award winner, from Hollywood royalty to exile, his downfall was as sudden as it was complete.
Kevin Spacey, a face once celebrated on screens around the world, is now over 66. Time has quietly shifted him into a life far from the applause and admiration he once knew. Every day carries the weight of memories, choices, and a world that has moved on. How he lives now is a story filled with quiet pain, resilience, and a loneliness that tugs at the heart. Stay with us as we finish this deep look into his story and show you what his world is like now. The fall from grace. Kevin Spacey was once one of the most celebrated actors of his generation. His rise to fame was meteoric and almost fairy tale-like. He had the charm, talent, and presence that made him irresistible on screen. In the mid-1990s, Spacey burst onto the scene with a performance in The Usual Suspects that earned him his first Academy Award. His portrayal of the mysterious and manipulative verbal Kint made audiences and critics alike sit up and take notice. Soon after, he delivered one of the most iconic performances in modern cinema history with American Beauty. His role as Lester Burnham was both chilling and sympathetic. It revealed a man trapped by his own life and desires, and Spacey embodied him with a magnetic intensity that few could match. At the height of his fame, he became the face of Hollywood sophistication and talent, the kind of actor who could command any stage or screen with a single glance or word. His later role as Frank Underwood in House of Cards solidified him as a television legend. He brought a dark charm to the political drama, captivating viewers with every calculating smile and sinister monologue. His career seemed untouchable, a carefully built empire of respect, talent, and accolades. Then, in 2017, everything changed. The first accusations surfaced publicly when actor Anthony Rapp claimed that Spacey had made an unwanted advance toward him decades earlier. The revelations ignited a firestorm in the midst of the hashtag #MeToo movement. Within days, more accusations began to surface. Suddenly, the world's perception of the actor shifted. The charisma and talent that had once made him untouchable were overshadowed by allegations that threatened to destroy him. The scandal moved faster than anyone could process. Hollywood reacted swiftly and decisively. Netflix announced that Spacey would be removed from the final season of House of Cards. Films he was attached to were shelved or recast, and projects that had been years in the making quietly vanished. The industry that had once celebrated him now seemed determined to erase him entirely. The personal and emotional toll was immense. The betrayal and shock of seeing one's career collapse almost overnight cannot be overstated. The accolades, the awards, and the fame that once defined his identity now felt meaningless. Spacey was suddenly isolated, his reputation tarnished, and his world crumbling in ways he may never have imagined. Every door he had once opened with ease now seemed firmly shut. His empire crumbled in the glare of scandal, yet as the courtroom doors swung open, everyone was surprised when he walked in, determined to fight. The legal battles and acquittal. In 2023, Kevin Spacey faced one of the most serious trials of his life at Southwark Crown Court in London. He was accused of multiple historical offenses involving 4 men between 2001 and 2013, including misconduct and causing a person to engage in an inappropriate activity without consent. The case drew global attention, with media outlets from around the world reporting on every courtroom moment. For Spacey, it was not just a legal battle, but a fight to reclaim dignity in a world that had already judged him harshly. The prosecution presented a timeline of events intended to show a repeated pattern of misconduct. Witnesses gave vivid accounts, describing encounters they said were non-consensual. One of the most dramatic testimonies came from Spacey's former driver, who alleged that Spacey grabbed him during a drive to a party hosted by Elton John, nearly causing a car accident. This testimony was meant to show a consistent misuse of power and influence, and courtroom observers felt the tension rise with each detail. Spacey's defense team approached the case methodically, dissecting each allegation and highlighting inconsistencies. They called witnesses who challenged the accuser's recollections and scrutinized the evidence with precision. Spacey himself appeared composed throughout, listening carefully, occasionally taking notes and answering questions in a measured tone. When he took the stand, he denied all allegations, asserting that encounters were consensual and relationships described as inappropriate were in fact mutual or romantic. He admitted the impact of the scandal on his life, saying that when his career collapsed, he felt his world exploded. A pivotal moment came when Elton John and his husband, David Furnish, testified via video link. They clarified that Spacey had attended only one white tie and tiara ball, contradicting an accuser's claim of multiple encounters. This testimony helped the defense question the accuracy of the timeline presented by the prosecution. Cross-examinations and evidence reviews went on for weeks, with the courtroom atmosphere charged with intensity. Every statement was dissected by the jury, and every reaction scrutinized by the media. After extensive deliberations, the jury returned a verdict. Spacey was acquitted on all 9 charges. Legally, he was free. Emotionally, he broke down in relief, mouthing "thank you" to the jurors and embracing his lawyers. Yet the verdict did not erase the public scrutiny or the lasting damage to his reputation. Some hailed it as a triumph for due process, while others remained skeptical, unable to separate the actor from the allegations that had defined headlines for years. In brief remarks afterwards, Spacey expressed gratitude to the jurors and reflected on the complexity of the moment. He acknowledged that being cleared in court did not automatically restore his public image or erase the emotional toll of years under scrutiny. For Spacey, the trial marked a legal turning point, a chance to move forward. But it was clear that reclaiming trust, respect, and stability would be a far longer journey. The courtroom had offered closure in law, but the court of public opinion remained unresolved, leaving the actor's future uncertain. The courtroom doors closed behind him, but the story was far from finished. Financial ruin and homelessness. After the scandals that shook his career, Kevin Spacey revealed a side of his life that few could imagine. In interviews, he admitted that he literally has no home.
It's been over a year since Kevin Spacey's tearful confession on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
I'm not quite sure where I'm going to live now.
Why is it being foreclosed?
Because I can't pay the bills that I owe.
He was living out of hotels and Airbnbs, moving from one temporary place to another, never settling, never feeling rooted. For a man who once commanded stages and screens around the world, this transient lifestyle was a stark and painful contrast to the life he had known. All of his possessions were stored away, boxed up and locked in storage units, unreachable and isolated. The items that once defined him, his clothes, memorabilia, personal mementos, were now distant, symbols of a life he could no longer fully touch. The physical absence of his belongings mirrored the emotional emptiness he carried. The home he had in Baltimore, a place that had been his anchor, was lost. It was sold at auction to cover financial strain, leaving him without any property, without a permanent place to call his own. The mounting legal costs over the previous 7 years had been astronomical, eating through his savings while his income dwindled. The films, projects, and deals that once poured wealth into his life had dried up. The actor who had once been at the pinnacle of Hollywood now faced bills and expenses that seemed insurmountable. Every day became a balancing act of survival and persistence. Yet despite all this, Spacey showed a resilience that surprised many. He spoke of going where the work is, echoing a spirit reminiscent of his early days in acting. He was no longer a Hollywood giant, but the hunger for creation and performance remained. It was a strange freedom in its own way, a return to the core of who he was before fame had made life predictable and safe. Even as he drifted from one temporary home to another, he expressed a faint hope that one day he might be able to put down roots again. He longed for stability, a place to feel secure, but he knew that such a chance depended on circumstances beyond his control. He drifted from hotel to Airbnb, but still he held on. The world had stripped him of wealth, comfort, and status, but it could not strip him of the determination to keep living and to keep finding work, no matter how small the stage or humble the role. Small projects with big dreams. Spacey turned his attention to smaller, independent projects, taking roles that might not bring the fame or fortune of his past, but allowed him to stay connected to the craft he loved. These indie films became a lifeline, a way to remind himself and the world that he still had talent, passion, and something to offer. Among his most notable ventures was the supernatural action thriller Hollygard's Saga, The Portal of Force, a project in which Spacey not only starred, but also took the director's chair. This was a bold move, showing that even in exile from mainstream Hollywood, he could still shape a story his way. The project became a symbol of his persistence, a testament to his desire to create rather than simply perform. It was a risky undertaking financially and creatively, but for Spacey, it was a chance to reclaim a sense of purpose and agency in a career that had been ripped from his grasp. In addition to his work in front of the camera, Spacey also lent his voice to Control, a 2023 British action thriller. Voice work allowed him to remain active in film without needing the full spotlight, demonstrating versatility and determination to keep moving forward. He quietly worked on other indie films as well, taking part in projects that might never reach wide audiences, but gave him the satisfaction of building, performing, and telling stories. Behind the scenes, he stayed engaged with scripts, directing notes, and creative discussions, proving that even stripped of fame, his commitment to the craft remained unwavering. But while he chased creativity with quiet determination, the world outside was not yet at peace. Legal troubles that had once haunted him began to resurface, and whispers of new civil claims loomed over his efforts. Legal shadows still linger. Even after his 2023 acquittal in London, Kevin Spacey's life remained far from stable. Fresh civil claims had emerged in the UK, proving that legal victory did not erase the shadows of his past. For Spacey, these ongoing legal battles were exhausting, both mentally and emotionally. Winning in court had not guaranteed freedom from judgment, and the constant pressure reminded him that the world still viewed him with suspicion. Publicly, he tried to frame the narrative carefully. He admitted responsibility for some of his past behavior, but rejected false or exaggerated claims. He insisted that he was not the villain many assumed. Yet despite his measured statements, the emotional toll was undeniable. His personal life added another layer of complexity. Before the scandals, Spacey had kept his romantic relationships largely private. In the 1990s, he was involved with script supervisor Diane Dreyer, a relationship that lasted nearly 8 years. At his Oscar acceptance for American Beauty, he publicly thanked her, calling her his love. He had also been linked to actress Jennifer Jason Leigh and rumored to have dated April Winchell. Despite these connections, much of his love life remained a mystery to the public. When the allegations surfaced, Spacey made a public revelation about coming out as gay. He explained that he had relationships with both men and women throughout his life, but he acknowledged that his timing and context of the announcement had caused confusion. He expressed regret, clarifying that his should not be conflated with the accusations against him.
The 63-year-old Academy Award winner is charged with 1 count of causing a person to engage in activity without consent.
Even this candid admission, however, became another point of scrutiny, leaving him vulnerable to public judgment. Despite the ongoing legal battles, public scrutiny, and the fragility of his personal life, he was determined to keep standing. Every step into public view was a quiet declaration of survival and persistence. A quiet comeback. In May 2025, Kevin Spacey made a public reappearance that drew international attention. He attended the Better World Fund Gala in Cannes and accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award. It was a symbolic moment, a quiet step back into the public eye after years of isolation and scandal. The event was not the Cannes Film Festival itself, but the presence of journalists, industry figures, and peers made it a high-profile platform. For Spacey, it was an opportunity to show that he was still present, still invested in his craft, and still capable of commanding attention. During his speech, Spacey reflected on the years that had changed his life so profoundly. He criticized what he called blacklist culture, comparing his ostracization to the historic Hollywood blacklisting of decades past. He spoke of the challenges he had endured, framing his absence not as a retreat, but as a forced exile from a world that had once celebrated him. He also made a subtle call to the legends of the industry, asking for permission in his own way to return, to reclaim a place in the world of film that had once been his. The speech was measured, thoughtful, and full of nuance, balancing humility with a quiet defiance. Spacey spoke of personal growth, claiming that the difficult years had made him more present, more loving, more understanding, and more forgiving. It was clear that his experiences had left their mark, reshaping his worldview and priorities. He acknowledged the weight of past mistakes while signaling a willingness to move forward with honesty and creativity. For him, the gala was not just about recognition, it was a platform to redefine himself, to show that he could still contribute meaningfully to cinema and storytelling. Beyond the speech, Spacey also promoted a new thriller, The Awakening, using the event to highlight his continuing work. This strategic move demonstrated that he was thinking carefully about his next steps, trying to leverage every opportunity to rebuild his career. His presence was a reminder that even in exile he had ideas, ambition, and projects he wanted the world to see. The reception was mixed. Some welcomed his return as a hopeful sign that a talented actor could recover from public disgrace. Others criticized the moment, pointing out that the award came from a private gala rather than the festival itself, highlighting the limitations of his comeback. Yet Spacey remained unfazed by the critics, focused on what he could control: his craft, his projects, and his public presence. With this quiet but deliberate return underway, the stage was set. His career was no longer the empire it once was, but Spacey had taken the first steps back into visibility. The next move depended not on him alone, but on the world's willingness to give him another chance. Every eye was on him, and every action carried weight. The story of his comeback had begun, but the ultimate test, the call from a major director, the project that could redefine him, still waited just beyond reach. The cost of remorse and loneliness. Kevin Spacey's current life is marked by an uneasy solitude. Once a titan of Hollywood, he now drifts between hotels and Airbnbs, with his possessions stored away in boxes. For someone who once commanded red carpets and center stage moments, this transient existence is more than inconvenient. It's emotionally raw. Fans are deeply divided. Some still revere his performances in American Beauty and House of Cards, viewing him as a brilliant actor whose talent shouldn't be forgotten. Others remain unforgiving, believing that his past misconduct has irreparably tarnished his legacy. His legacy itself is now inseparable from scandal. The very roles that made him a legend, Verbal Kint, Frank Underwood, are haunted by a different narrative, one of power, controversy, and public fall. Hollywood's reaction to his downfall was swift. Once powerful directors and producers turned away, and major opportunities disappeared. But not everyone abandoned him. Prominent figures like Sharon Stone, Liam Neeson, Stephen Fry, and Brian Cox have publicly expressed support, calling him gifted and arguing that the industry still needs his voice. Their words carry weight. They champion his potential comeback, not just because of talent, but because they believe in redemption, or at least in second chances. Still, even their support is controversial, stirring renewed debate about accountability, forgiveness, and what kind of legacy really matters. Emotionally, Spacey carries the weight of all this: the adoration, the betrayal, the judgment. He often speaks of personal growth, saying the hardest years have made him more present, loving, understanding, forgiving. But that growth comes at a cost. Living out of suitcases, he constantly wrestles with what remains of his identity. The years of acclaim are behind him, but the future feels fragile. He's legally free, yet the public opinion tethering him to his past feels harder to escape than any courtroom verdict. Still, he holds on. He works on smaller film projects, chooses roles with care, and refuses to fade entirely. His goal now seems less about reclaiming the throne and more about finding purpose, creating meaning on his own terms. He speaks of rebuilding, not just a career, but a place in an industry and a world that once rejected him so publicly. The path ahead is deeply uncertain. Will his legacy be remembered as a tale of talent triumphant or as a cautionary story of power misused? Can he make peace with his past while forging a new chapter? For Kevin Spacey, the real work may no longer be on screen. It may be reconstructing a legacy in the face of doubt and division. Kevin Spacey's journey is one of talent, controversy, and uncertain redemption. What do you think? Can he truly rebuild his legacy, or is some damage too deep to repair?